Hi, my name is Kirti, and I'm the head of training at WorldPulse. I am super excited to welcome you into the social entrepreneurship module and hope that by the end of this training, you have all that you need to get started in your journey as a social entrepreneur. Today, we will talk about setting up a social enterprise. But before we go forward, I want to share with you a quote from an amazing woman on WorldPulse, Olutosin, who says this. As a social entrepreneur, my plan is to run a nonprofit in a sustainable manner, building a social venture that is healthy, transforming, and independent. I want to build an organization that will support other organizations. I have discovered that trait in me since 2011 when I began to make and sell tie and dye fabrics to support our free training for women. Olutosin is the founder of Sister City, Star of Hope Transformation Center, and Tosin Turns Trash to Treasure. You will hear a lot more about Olutosin's story and even listen to her talk about her experience in a separate video at the end of this module. For now, let's go ahead. In today's lesson, you are going to be learning about the meaning of a social enterprise, how you identify a problem and a solution for it, and how you set up an enterprise to answer those very problems through the solutions you have crafted. What is social entrepreneurship? Social entrepreneurship is a solution-oriented initiative that tries to solve a social, cultural, or environmental problem at the grassroots level and is backed by either a business model or funding so that there is ways to make sure that your operations are sustainable in ways that you do not depend too much only on donations to run organizational operations. Ultimately, the goal is to produce meaningful impact at the grassroots level so that you transform the community that is involved in the enterprise. In short, a social entrepreneur is a person who runs a social enterprise. It may be one person, it may be a group of people, it may be a platform collective of several organizations coming together. Setting up a social enterprise typically and very broadly looks like three key pillars. Number one, identify the problem. Number two, identify the solution. And number three, implement the solution through an organizational setting. Now let's look at what you look at when you identify the problem you want to address. Social enterprises, like I said in the beginning, typically aim to address some form of a social, cultural, or environmental problem. Now the problem may be at a local level, at a regional level, at a national level, or perhaps even at a global level. Regardless of the scale or size of the problem, it is one that either has never been addressed before, or has been addressed but not enough, or has been addressed but needs different solutions and different hands to respond so that it can be overall responded to together. So when you identify a problem, one thing to remember is that it may be a problem that affects you personally or people that you care deeply for. But the key is to really understand why it is a problem and why it's continuing to remain a problem in the here and now. So this means you need to do a lot of research to understand exactly what you're up against. If you have a lived experience that is deeply informed by experiencing that problem, that's a good place to start. But it's still always helpful to supplement that understanding that your lived experience has given you with suitable research. So while identifying the problem, you might want to ask yourself the following questions. What is the problem in itself? Who is most affected by this problem? How long has it been a problem? And why has it been a problem itself? Has anybody addressed it? If so, how? I want you to take some time to really reflect on these questions and make notes of your answers. You could do this in the form of a journal entry, or in the form of a notebook entry with you, or in a Microsoft Word document. But regardless, whatever it is that you choose to write, I would love for you to keep that because it will form a part of your assignment before you close out on the entire module. Welcome back. If you had a chance to reflect on these questions by pausing this video, brilliant. If not, I hope you have a chance to revisit these questions and think through the answers to them as you build your way forward in this module. For now, let's go forward. Now, the next step following the identification of the problem is to identify the solution. Identifying the solution is oftentimes a tricky process, but also sometimes a completely unexpected process. Sometimes problems may have really simple solutions that may just strike you out of nowhere. You may have a spark of innovation, a moment of curiosity turning into a moment of invention, Or you might have several years of knowledge in the field that have helped you understand what hasn't worked and therefore pivoted you towards what will or might work. Regardless of what you choose, whether it is creating a solution from scratch, depending on an innovation, or using your experience to craft a solution, never assume that it is the solution. It's always important for you to test it, to understand it, to do your research, and to supplement anything that you're setting out to do to ensure that it is truly sustainable on ground. There are two major things that you have to remember when you want to identify a solution. Number one, as I just said, research. It's important for you to understand what has already been done to address the problem, and if it's succeeded, why, and if it's failed, why, and who has really addressed it, where, in what ways. The second point to also remember is to center the community that is affected by the problem. Very often, our assumptions lead us to believe that something might be the best, easiest, most workable solution to a problem. But in reality, it could be far displaced from what the community that is affected by the problem really see, own, and envision as a solution. So it's very important to center the community in all processes involving identifying and testing the solution. Now, I want to give you an example. Let's say you want to address menstrual health by providing menstrual hygiene products. And in your mind, providing menstrual cups is perfect as a solution because it also has the least degree of environmental harm. However, let's assume that you go ahead and roll this project out without talking to the community, and you've brought enough menstrual cups to offer to all the women in a village. There may be a chance that the women in the village may not be comfortable with using those menstrual cups. There may be a chance that they may prefer something else in order to manage their menstrual cycles. There is also the chance that they may just not have access to clean water to be able to ensure that their menstrual cups are clean for use later. So it's important for you to understand what the community is really facing. What do they think of the problem? Why is it a problem for them? And what have they tried out that hasn't already worked? Or what have they tried out that has worked up to a certain point or is already working well? And how can you add value over and above that? While looking at identifying the solution, think of the following questions. Number one, what are the solutions others have created? Number two, why did it work or not work? Following that, check on what the community really wants from the process. Why has this particular want or need gone unmet? And finally, how can I, as a social entrepreneur, facilitate this solution? I want to invite you to take a moment to reflect on these questions. You could pause this video at this point, make your notes, and like I said, continue to build on the building blocks that you've already got in place, because these pieces will help you build your final assignment for this module. Welcome back. If you had a chance to pause this video and reflect on these questions, I hope you had a lot to think about. And if not, I hope you get a chance to revisit this section of the video to think through these questions and jot down your answers. For now, let's move forward. The third step is really about implementing the solution you have created. So the process starts with creation, ideation, where you test the solution and then go out to implement. Once you have a clear idea of what your solution might be, it's a very helpful thing for you to start thinking of the next steps before you bring that solution to life. So the first step is to really test that solution. And you can do this through a simulation. You can do this through a hypothetical case study. You can do this through a pilot project or a trial run of a very short sprint or a small number of maybe the products or a small number of iterations of the services that you're going to offer. While doing so, it's important for you to think of a test group that as closely resembles the community that will benefit from the solution you are creating. So bring them on board and make sure that you offer enough compensation for their time in testing your product so that there is a sense of fairness on both sides for this engagement as well. You may follow this up with a discussion, a focus group discussion, a one-to-one interview, a survey, or really any way to gather responses and data from the people who participated in testing. Implementing this solution really will start only after you understand how the test has landed. So once you receive feedback from the people you test this solution with, it's important for you to evaluate the feedback and see if there are useful points for you to draw from to improve or enhance what you already have offered. Once you do this, you may want to go back to the same test group and show them the improved and enhanced version to see how it landed as well. While making sure to test the product, it's extremely important for you to be mindful of the fact that the people that you're testing it for may or may not necessarily have reason to use this product later. So it's also important to acknowledge whether they will use this product or this service. If so, why? And if not, why? And you may go through the cycle of testing this, applying the learnings from the testing and then testing it again and applying the learnings. It can go on as many times as is feasible for you. But at some point, you will find yourself with the perfect or near perfect product or service to offer. And that is the point when you're ready to take the solution and roll it out in the form of an implemented project. So with all of this in place, you're ready to set up your social enterprise. Now, if you are the only person who has handled everything on this from start to finish, you might want to start thinking about putting a team together because you have proof of concept and you know that it's going to be successful. It's useful to assemble the right skills to make this a scalable project. If you're already a team, then you're ready for the next step, which is to set up your initiative as an organization. Now, you can think about setting up a nonprofit, a for-profit, or a hybrid organization. A nonprofit is one that doesn't make any profit and uses all the money that it receives, whether as donations or grants or financial support from philanthropists, into its functions and operations to benefit the community. A for-profit typically has a business model, which means that there's some amount of work that's constantly going into producing money and using the profits earned from that to both support the social wing of the enterprise and to make sure that the functioning of the organization goes forward. Hybrid versions combine the best of both worlds and enable action to take place in ways that sustain the organization while making sure that the social wing proceeds completely. Now, I want to share with you 3 powerful case studies of women on World Pulse who've gone on and accomplished and set up really amazing startups and social enterprises of their own. Now, Ola Tosin, who I started this session with a quote from, set up a powerful art-based initiative called Tosin Turns Trash to Treasure. Now, this initiative makes trash into art. So Ola Tosin actually collects what other people discard as trash or garbage and assembles it into beautiful wall-sized murals that have been purchased by people and collectors all over the world. All the money that she makes from her art goes into funding the initiatives that she has set up for women in different positions and situations in their lives. The Star of Hope Transformation Center helps empower women, equip them with skills, and send them out into the world as fully successful people in their own right. And Sister City is a shelter for women who have faced some form of abuse or violence in their households. Now, Ketura Sharma, a really amazing woman on World Pulse too, is one of our digital ambassadors who decided that instead of reinventing the wheel by creating a solution that has already been tested successfully elsewhere, she would bring that solution into her community. So she got in touch with somebody called Arunachalam Murugananthan, who's more popularly known as Padman from South India. Now, Arunachalam has created a powerful machine that uses natural materials to create sanitary napkins for women and does an extra thing by hiring women to run the machine. So in the process, he is not only making women economy worthy by giving them jobs, but also giving them the sanitary products that they need at fully affordable and perhaps even free rates. Now, Ketura decided to see if this would work in her community in Nigeria, and she made sure to do her investigation and research when she realized that there would be a massive uptake of what Muruganantham's product had to offer. So she is in the process of bringing that machine into her country to be able to not only employ women, but to make sanitary products available as well. Now, a third example I want to share with you today is the story of Esther, one of our featured changemakers and an amazing woman too. She set up the Billion Hearts Farmhouse, which is a self-sustaining agricultural initiative. Now, it grows and produces organic herbs and spices and also engages in rabbit farming. Farmhouse models for sustainable farming practices in small urban spaces that she has established have informed several mirror projects across the world as well. She also runs the Billion Hearts Academy, which is a special education facility that is committed deeply to inclusive education in Uganda. So as these 3 women's cases show you, setting up a social enterprise is really just about one step towards creativity. You make that step and the sky is the limit. So now I want to invite you to try this out together. Here are a few questions I want you to think about at the end of this module. Number 1, what is the problem you want to solve? Number 2, what is the solution you want to implement? And number 3, how will you implement this solution? Think of this as a visioning board. Think of this as a dreamscape where you will be able to envision this exactly as you want it to be. Use the guiding questions that we stopped and paused in during this video at different points as ways for you to build into this building block. Once you have this building block together, set it aside and save it in a file or make your notes in a journal. You will come back to this when you construct your final story before closing out on this module. I hope you have a lot to think about around setting up your own social enterprise, and I can't wait to see you in the next video in making sure how you take the next step from here on. Until then, stay safe.